Hello, boys. There we go.
Round 13, 1975. 2 weeks, Sam Newman abusing a goal umpire.
Well, that could have been very embarrassing, Sammy. If anyone here had a magnifying glass.
Coming, Crawf, we've just... Fair again.
No, he's having a good night.
You've dragged, in one fell swoop, you've dragged the integrity and the decency of this show down to gutter level. Just in one foolish act.
I'm glad I've
We've worked for 8 years to bring a bit of class and dignity to AFL football. You've completely stuffed it in about 1 minute of stupidity.
I've had to think about it, and to be honest, if you're going to watch a footy show, you've got to be prepared for anything. And you've shown it all before in the past. I've probably done the wrong thing tonight, but anyway, if you don't like it, switch over and watch another channel.
Shane.
Actually, no, I did the wrong thing. I didn't mean to say that.
Don't push your luck, mate. I tell you what, just give us 1 more second of that stupidity and you get the sack on air.
Well, it's probably my last
Don't
night
forget
on
who
the
you
show,
are.
So,
You're forgetting who you are?
I'm going out with a bang.
You're a dribbling little footballer who we have on just in the name of trying to add a bit of credibility to the show, so don't get too far ahead of yourself or you'll be out.
All right, Eddie McGuire, Sam Newman, thanks for joining us on Long Story Short. Now, Sam, you're the long part of the story. I'm obviously the short part. And Ed, you were right amongst it, right in the middle.
Yes, I had a ringside seat to it. It was an amazing night, one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. Also one of the most scary once I realised what was going on. I think the most hilarity I got out of it was actually looking at the cameraman, all trying to find a different shot. At one stage, the cameras were whizzing around everywhere. There was a whiz pan out wide into Matthew Lloyd and all over the place as the director tried to find some camera that wasn't aimed at Sam's appendage.
Now, Sam, we are talking about the night that unfortunately your pants fell down live on TV, and unfortunately, what happened in that situation was your shorts came down and you stood there in those black or blue undies, just parading to the crowd, and then a silly little boy behind you decided, oh, I'll give the undies a go, and by the time that had all happened, the cameraman had zoomed in on that package that you've got. And unfortunately, we saw it live on television. I thought I'd lost my job. Eddie was rolling on the ground and you were there with your arms in the air going, what on earth has just happened? Because it's all there to bear.
And I thought I'd lost my credibility because, well, I was asked after, was this arranged beforehand? Was this a ploy for ratings for a bit of shock value? And I said to the person who asked me, give us a break. Had I known he was going to remove my duds on air, I would have buffed it up something better than that. Another irresponsible performance by you, Shane. We had tried for years to bring class and integrity to the show and make it into something that people could be proud to watch in front of the family and kids, and you just dragged it down to a level that has not been seen since and probably won't be seen again.
And pretty much dragged it all the way to be off air. But I tell you what, back at the time, it all started with Hawthorn and Fremantle playing. And you said at the time that Hawthorn had threw the game so Fremantle could win, and we made some money on the footy trip, which was totally not true. And then you came out dressed as a Fremantle player. Was it a Hawthorn? Yeah, a Fremantle player, flicking the money around, doing all sorts of things. And then from there, your pants obviously go down. It's a disaster. I'm thinking I've lost the captaincy of Hawthorn. I've lost my job at Channel 9. And to look over and see Eddie McGuire rolling on the ground, I knew I'm in massive trouble here. I've really done the wrong thing.
Well, I don't think people quite appreciate how it works, because it's pretty hard to explain this to people, but we for 25 years went live to air, like as in no 1 second break or 1 second relay or delay. And by the time I realised, I remember you leaning over and pulling my nicks down, and I thought, well, there's no way on live television in front of a audience and a studio audience and people watching around the nation that you'd pull my jocks off. And how wrong can you be? Down they came. And by the time someone said, why didn't you put your hand across your genitals? I said, well, in the 1 or 2 seconds you get to think about what has actually gone on, it's a bit late by the time you get your hands across your genitals. So you live with it or die with it.
The funniest thing for me still was Matthew Lloyd continuing on. He had a line that he wanted to get to with the Dolphins. Didn't matter what was going on around him, he was going to get to it. He powered on like a superstar. But geez, it was funny at the time. And why I was rolling around because I could see the cameras couldn't go anywhere. And then I'm looking at the audience, and they're all aghast like that. And we had nowhere to go. We had to stick with it. As Sam said, it was live. And the cameramen were trying to find another shot desperately somewhere. And Gary Newman, the director, was trying to find another shot. And finally it came back to a very open-mouthed looking Shane Crawford, little young man that he was at that stage. It was hilarious.
I was in total shock. I really was. I thought, oh, no, I'd lost my job. And I knew from your reaction, Ed, that was way over the line. And then from Sam's point of view, Sam was like, do you know what? Like, if you're ever going to do anything like that, you need to tell me. But as we've done on the Footy Show, we just go with the flow. And Sam, you always tell everyone that it'd been curled up for 8 to 10 hours in your jocks. So, of course, it wasn't going to jump out and go, hello, here I am. That's why it was so small, and that's why we only needed a small little pixel whenever we showed it from then on.
Yes, when I chat about this at a public forum, I don't want to be too salacious, but I always...
No, tell us what you normally say when you talk about it.
Well, people say, gee, there wasn't much there. And I say, well, could you put yourself in the position of your own appendage? Imagine you'd been trussed up in your owner's underpants for 12 hours and suddenly your owner removes your underpants on air in front of a live audience and bright lights. If you were an appendage, would you immediately flop out and knock your owner's kneecaps off? Of course you wouldn't. You'd stick your head out, have a look around, see if there's anything worth coming out for, and then you'd gradually sneak out. And that's when someone said, did you know it was going to happen? I said, oh, give us a break. I would have given it a fearful stropping out the back had I known that was going to happen. And so I was, a lot of the calls dropped off after that. I became persona non grata with, well, I'm a heterosexual, so people I used to go out with, and that was the end of the shooting match, really.
I tell you what, it was very funny, like, because that's what you were most disappointed about is like, it was curled up, it was locked away, and everyone thinks now that you're not well endowed where you think you should be proud of. But the thing is with the pixelation too, every time we showed it after that, we'd only need one little pixel.
Yeah. Look, I'm not sure how I got called into the office at 9. I don't know who was running the joint then. And I was asked to explain. I said, you are blaming me for this? I think Shane vaguely got off scot-free. I had to front the media. While I was exposing myself on television, I thought, how could you possibly draw that analogy from what happened if you were watching it? Though, you know, the headline was that Sam exposed himself on television. I said, that made my family, geez, they jumped into the bunkers. Christ, they said... I said, no, I had to ring him up. I said, no, I haven't exposed myself on television. They said, what are you doing that for? And I said, hang on a minute. There was another boy there beside me. I was getting flack from everywhere.
Well, that was true because I thought I was going to lose the captaincy of Hawthorn the very next day. I thought I was going to be kicked out of Channel 9 because Cos Cardone said, listen, we've had obviously a lot of complaints that have come through. And back then they used to fax them through, didn't they, Ed? There was complaints and we'd have like hundreds and hundreds. And that's when we knew that we had a good show, when there was lots of complaints. Well, there was more than ever. And I thought, yeah, I was gone. And I know at the time you were a bit uncertain as well. But then the next day, when we all came together to talk about it, it was like, keep up the good work. don't do that again, but keep having fun on the TV. And Sam, keep your pants on. And I remember, Sam, you did cop all the blame in the media. Everyone said you're at it again, when really it wasn't your fault.
No, did you think I just made that up, Shane? I was there at the time. I know exactly what went on. Friends, family, acquaintances.
The statutes of limitation are gone, but you probably could have had a go at workplace, assault there if we had been in 2020 rather than back whenever it was back in the old days.
Yeah, sexual harassment in the workplace.
It was hilarious. I must admit, I fell on the floor, not because it was stage manager or anything else, but I couldn't think of anywhere else to go. I just fell on the floor and looked. There was a football. There was a Sharon footy just to the side of stage. I don't know why it was there, but I remember seeing it there to the corner of my eye, and I grabbed it because I didn't know how long this was going to go on for. And all I could think of was Sam coming out that one time when he actually walked out in the nick again, but with a football strategically played of him, and then started dropping the ball from one hand to the other, and that could have been I think that night you were ready for a premiere, Sam, but as you say, not all those years later. It was hilarious, it was spontaneous, and it was fun. And who knows, we might have been 20 years ahead of ourselves. That could have been the first of maths or something like that. But that was the great thing about our show we loved so much. It was a reality show every Thursday night at 9:30. Out we come, and who knew what was going to happen.
And I know from a player's point of view, I used to get so excited driving to the Footy Show because I wasn't sure what news Eddie was going to break or what Sam was going to do. And even to this day, everyone says, what happens when you're going to the Footy Show? Do you talk through what's going to go on? It's like, no. Sam doesn't even turn up to the meetings. It's just like cameras are on, whatever happens from there. And that's what made it so much fun, especially as a footballer, because fun is what it's all about.
Remember the dinners we used to have upstairs in my office there? We'd have the dinner, Sam, and Sam might have a light refreshment occasionally.
Yeah. No, I had the
I think you end up banning him, Ed, because he used to have a couple of bottles of red before he'd go on air.
I used to have a couple of drinks, and then I used to have a couple more, and then someone, subtly enough, one week said, "Sam, do you reckon you better not have too many drinks before you went on?" I said, "Why would that be?" He said, "Because you're doing more and more stupid things when you get on." I said, "Okay," so I cut the grog back, and always like to listen to people's advice. Take everything on advisement, Shane.
That's right. And whose boardroom would you be drinking those wines in?
Ed's.
No, it was an awesome time. We love the Footy Show, and that was certainly an absolute highlight, even though there wasn't any trouble at the end. We were just trying to have some harmless fun. And Sam, we're sorry that we dragged you down to our level. In my level. I apologise for that. And Ed, mate, your reaction was absolutely priceless. The president, someone who was running the world, rolling on the ground, it really is one of those TV moments I think people are never, ever going to forget.
And to be perfectly honest, it probably epitomised what we were trying to do, and that is the locker room humour, the fun that goes on at footy clubs. All those things happen, and people used to watch our show. I remember so many women used to say, I've never quite understood the culture of what happens at footy clubs, and now I do, and I love it. And yet there are a lot of people, you know what it's like in those days, Sam and Crawf, it didn't matter who you were, you didn't get into the rooms, far less anything else. And the women in those days used to actually be literally locked outside until the players had finished and showered, and the coach had yelled at them or told them they'd been fantastic, and then they'd come out. It was quite Dickensian in those days. So the whole attitude. So for all this to be on live TV, people actually just loved it so much. And I look at it now, and some of the shows they are a bit dour, Sam, to say the least, and taking themselves slightly serious. And I just wonder, I think if we started it again and did it the same old way, it would be just as successful again. I can promise you. They were just great days.
Maybe we need to bring House of Bolger back, Sam.
Exactly.
The House of Bolger. You nincompoop. Honestly and truly. Yeah, no, we had a crack at that. Don't know where that could have gone, Shane, if any of us had been any good at it. The House of Bolger.
Didn't we?
We had The Rock on there, and I'll tell you what, he's gone to the biggest star in the world, so we were heading down the right path.
Yeah. Silly Bill dressed up as a large fat woman. In fact, all he had to do is put clothes on.
Pretty much. Hey, no, thanks, Ed. Thanks for Sam. Long story short, it's always great catching up and absolutely loved sharing many of those moments with you. It's been awesome. And hopefully one day we get to do it all again.
Good on you, mate.
Right. All the best. See you, Ed.
Cheers.